So welcome back. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. I mean, I must admit, so far we've just been putting content between tags, which is cool. We need to know how to do it, but it's not going to really win any awards, is it? This is what our page looks like at the moment, which isn't that exciting, but we're going to start getting a little bit more exciting. Don't get too excited, but we're going to start doing a little bit more interesting things. So what I suggest we do is let's just get rid of all this junk in between the header and the footer. So remember we said before that the header treats everything inside it as like an individual unit, and so does the footer. So really I can put anything in the middle, any junk, and then if I refresh the page, and it's going to go between the header and the footer, you know, kind of in between. It's not going to go on the same row. But usually you want to put stuff between tags. Okay, so we're going to just play around with this area in here, and I'm going to show you two things today. So we're going to look at hyperlinks and also images. So let's go for hyperlinks first. So far we've been putting things between tags. Like, do you remember, I think the very first thing we did was we did bold, and then we're like, hey, and if I save that and refresh the page, it says hey in bold. Okay, we remember that one. Now there are some tags where they don't just work on their own. You need to add what's called an attribute to it. So if I put in the bold tag, it works, it does what it's supposed to do, you know, it made it bold. Whereas one of the tags that is really interesting is the hyperlink tag. Okay, so if I put A and then save it, I've now kind of made a hyperlink. Okay, the hyperlink tag is A, and obviously you've got the /A at the end. So if I save that and I go to the browser, I've now made my hyperlink. Well, you'd think anyway. But if you look at it, it doesn't actually appear to have done anything. I can't click it. So what's gone wrong? And what's gone wrong is that this particular tag needs an attribute for it to work. For it to kind of kick into gear, it needs what we call an attribute. So let's add the attribute to it. So attributes go just before this arrow. So in the opening tag, just before the kind of closing arrow, it goes in there. So let's put loads of spaces. Now, do you remember we said that spaces don't really mean anything? So if you wanted to, you could put tons of space like this. I don't suggest you do, but let's just do that anyway, just so you can see. So I've kind of split the A tag up, and the attribute, and it's just one of those things where you'll remember it. It doesn't take that long. It's href. So I think it stands for hypertext reference. href, that's what you're going to need to type in. And I know you might go, wait, what's going on? But eventually it just kind of comes as second nature. You need to put equals, and then you put the little speech marks or the inverted commas. And that's kind of the attribute that we need. Okay, wait, some funky stuff was showing up there, wasn't it? So that's kind of the attribute that you need to use to get the A tag to work. So in a hyperlink, if you click it, it's going to go somewhere or do something. And so the simplest form of a hyperlink is to put in like a website address. Okay, so if I put in between those speech marks https:// let's do google.com. Right, then what I've done is I've kind of said when someone clicks on this hyperlink, go to that website. Okay, so let's save that, and then let's go to our browser. And now something's happened. It's turned blue and it's now underlined. And that's because the Chrome browser interprets, hey, I've seen an A tag. I know what A tags are. They're hyperlinks. So I'm going to make them blue and underlined. And you might not like that. You might want it to be red or not underlined or whatever. And you can tell the browser to do that using the HTML and CSS. But by default, that's how our browser interprets A tags. But let's just see if it works. Let's have a look. So if I hover over hey, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, it says https google.com. So if I click it, let's see if it works. And it does. I go to Google. So my hyperlink's working, which is kind of cool. We've actually got something working. We've got kind of an interactive site now, which is great. So if I go back to the code editor, now you don't really want to do it like this because that looks terrible. And remember, if you share this with someone, they're going to mock you. So let's just get rid of those spaces. Really, you don't want these spaces. The only space you want is between A and href. Look, if you don't have a space, then the code editor understands as a href, which doesn't make sense. So you put your little space there. And that's why code editors are good, because it shows you using colors actually what's going on. So there we go. We've just created our first hyperlink. And that's really useful if you want to kind of click on something and go somewhere else. And that's using the A tag, but using the href attribute. Okay, so we're going to do one more in this video, and that's images. So the image tag looks like this. It's arrow img, and then you close it. Now, strangely, the code editor hasn't added the last tag. You would have thought it would have added this img. Why did it say body? I don't know what that is. That was probably me. You would have thought it would maybe do something like okay, if I do the slash, it kind of adds body, and I don't want that, so maybe that doesn't work. But you would have thought maybe it would do something like that, where it gives you the closing tag. But the thing is, with the image tag img, it doesn't actually need a closing tag. So it's one of those unique ones where it doesn't need an end. It doesn't need an end in. So that's kind of it, really. Now, obviously, I need to put some kind of content in here and some attributes. So it's the same as the A tag. What you do is you go just before the arrow, and then you need one space, but let's just do lots so you can see what's going on. And in this one, it's not href, it's src, which stands for source. And just like above, it's src equals, and then you get your speech marks. Okay. Oh, that was what I saw before. And there's my screen recordings. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say there's an image somewhere in the world, and we want people to see this image in this section right here, somewhere between the hyperlink and the footer. So you can either point it to a file on your computer or on a server or on another website or something like that. So just to keep this simple, there's a really cool website that I found that I quite like. It's called pixelm. So if you search for it online, pixelm, there you go, obviously I've looked for it before, and it's this one here, pixelm.photos, and it's just a kind of placeholder for you to put for your images, and then you can just replace them later. So what you have to do is you can just grab this text here. So it's a web link, which pixelm.photos 200 300. So we can just test it. If I put that into the browser, it's just going to be an image. Okay, which is great because we're going to use that right now. So if I come back to my code editor, and then between those speech marks, let's place it there. And then if I hit save and I come back to my HTML file and refresh, hey, I've got a photo. Excellent. So what it's doing is it's kind of pointing to that picture. Now, the thing is, the people at Pixelm, if they change that photo tomorrow, then it's going to change here because my file is pointing to that image. So you can either point it, like I said, somewhere on the internet, somewhere on your local files or server or whatever, but the source attribute says we're going to go and grab an image from this particular URL. So let's clean this up again because we don't want to have lots of spaces. We don't want people laughing at us. And there we go. Cool. So I'll just save that. Now, one thing you'll notice is that in my little browser here, can you see that we've got, oh, it's changed. Oh, does it change every time? I didn't realize it did that. That's kind of cool. Oh, wow, that's clever. So one thing you'll notice is it says, hey, and then to the right, it has the image. And that's because the A tag and the img tag aren't like divs. Do you remember in the last video we did divs, where a div says, hey, I'm saving this whole inline space. This is mine. Everything else go above me or below me. But the A tag and the img tag kind of work in line. So if you wanted the picture below hey, then what you're going to need to do is to somehow split these two up. And do you remember in the last video you can use a div for that? So let's just make this really easy. Let's have lots of spaces so we can see what's going on. So I've got my A tag, my hyperlink, and then my image. But I want my image to be below the hyperlink. So I've got a couple of options. One thing I can do is I could put the hey in a div, or I could put the image in a div. Either way, it's going to do the same thing. So let's put the image in a div just for fun. So let's come over here and we'll type in div. It gives me my closing tag, and I'm going to take that and put it at the bottom. And then we'll just indent this so we can see what's going on. So now what's happened is my image is inside a div. So now if we save this and we refresh this, then what happens now is it treats it as that single unit, and it says nothing else is going to be on the same row as me. So it goes below hey rather than on the same line. So hopefully now you're starting to see, hey, I can understand how this works now. If I want something in line, then I just kind of write it. Whereas if I want it on a separate row, then I include it in a div. I mean, it would have worked if I'd put header here. I don't probably want two headers. Or if I'd put footer, because remember that does the same thing as a div. But hopefully you'll be able to see now that you can create a structure of a website And in this video, we've seen how you can make hyperlinks and also images. And so we're kind of on our way, aren't we? We're getting there. And then in the next video, we'll take it a little bit of a step further, and we'll try and start making this look a bit more like an actual page. All right, see you in the next video.